Hi, so welcome to my Alatreon walkthrough slash guide slash just sort of playthrough gameplay footage, whatever you call it. Now, first thing obviously is you want to get some food. I tend to get Firewalker just because it prevents me from taking damage from all the lava that is on this map, so that's quite practical. Obviously, you want to drink a cool drink at the beginning, just regular stuff, and some Mega Armor Skin and Mega Demon Drug just to boost your defense and your attack. At the beginning it can be a little bit risky to do all of this iteming, obviously, since he starts out with attacks right away. But yeah, I mean, you can just abandon the quest if you get hit right at the beginning with something really dangerous. What I'm using is the full Barioth set and the upgraded longsword that you get from Dios, and that's because Slime is pretty good against him. Because it doesn't matter what phase he's in, doesn't matter what state he's in, Slime is always doing a fair amount of damage. And so, yeah, at the beginning the tactic against his non-angry ground state is to basically just kind of wail at its legs usually, and if you get a good attack opportunity, then go for the head. Like, for instance, here you can go for the head after he's doing a fireball attack. However, you have to get out of that situation real fast because he's gonna retaliate with something else. If you don't get out of there, he has plenty of attacks that go right in front of him. Whenever he's screaming, he's basically placing these little geysers of lava, and they can hit you hard, especially if you're using the Barioth set. I mean, they would probably take 50% of my HP or so, and they also inflict heavy fire, so that's real dangerous stuff. Yeah, so basically, once you get him angry, eventually he will switch to the flying state. It's almost inevitable. I don't think I've ever seen him not switch to his flying state when you get him angry in the ground state. And generally speaking, around the Ballista Binder, which is here in the north of the map, this is kind of the best area to fight him in. Yeah, right now what he's doing is this triple lightning punch attack. That's a little tricky. It would probably take 50% of my HP if it actually did hit me. So that is really dangerous, but by just rolling away from it, you can avoid it. Even if he staggers you, then you can actually still roll away from that stuff. Just if you don't do it immediately, then yeah, you can actually get staggered 3 times, still survive. Sometimes after he's doing certain attacks, or actually after he's doing any attack, he will then hover in the air, basically just sort of waiting for you to attack him, and in that situation it's best to just go for its tail. So for instance, after he's doing those lightning strikes, that happens quite often. Didn't happen this time. Another attack opportunity is when he's doing that big ice attack. You gotta watch out for the tail attack as well. Like, that's real tough. Like, usually when you want to evade through it, you have to wait quite a bit between the auto cue and until the actual attack comes out, so that's sometimes quite dangerous. And yeah, eventually he will transition back to his ground phase. I think he's actually not angry right now. You can tell by the sort of fire that's coming out of his mouth. There is none right now. The Ballista Binder tends to be ready every couple of minutes, and that's fantastic, but I missed it this time. I couldn't get to the Ballista Binder in time and shoot it before he went back to his ground state. And you don't want to use the Ballista Binder in his ground state. I don't even know if that actually damages him at all. It's just, I don't know. So yeah. Right now it's just the usual sort of wailing at him. You know, he can always get a couple of punches in. This sort of attack where he's waving around his head and then he screams, that's a great opportunity. Yeah, I would be wailing at him way more if it wasn't for the fact that he can do these kinds of punches after pretty much every single attack. And even if you're at his hind legs, even if you're 180 degrees behind him, he can still hit you with that. So, yeah, that's actually the main reason why I use an evade sense, because I can roll through that. He will transition into flying states basically by sort of jumping backwards and then doing this sort of lightning aura around him. So that's how you can tell. So now I got the Ballista Binder finally, and I get to wail at its head. Now you gotta be careful, when he's over here at the lava, it can actually be that he'll fall in such a way that you don't get to attack its head, so it was a bit too risky to do that. Actually, yeah, it was a dumb idea for me to do that. I should have waited until it was in a different location. Yeah, I kind of panic roll quite often when he's doing this attack. It just looks so intimidating. But really, you know, when he's sort of flying backwards and then back onto the map, that's pretty easy to deal with. You just need to walk out of the way, and that gives you a decent opportunity to attack. So yeah, just do this basically. You can just walk back onto the map. Yeah, for the sake of the video, I'm basically going for a sort of safer and less risky strats than I might have usually done. Right, so that's why I drank that Mega Potion. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done that. But I just don't want to die. I just don't want this run to fail, basically. So yeah, this big lightning AoE is real tricky. Essentially what you need to do is just always stay in motion, because some of these lightnings are completely random, but some of them actually spawn directly on you, and if you don't stay in motion, you will get hit by them. So yeah, that's also real tough to deal with. Even if you know this fight perfectly, even if you know it, you know, even if you've done it 100 times, even if you've killed him 1,000 times, it doesn't matter. You will still sometimes get hit by that lightning AoE stuff, just because it's bad RNG can always kill you. So yeah, sometimes he will do sort of a big screaming move and then he'll fly over there. This is basically a fantastic opportunity to barrel bomb him. While these ice blocks are falling on you, it's actually not a big problem. All you need to do is once again stay in motion. If you don't stay in motion, that they will fall directly on you. There's this spot next to this sort of yeah, this crack basically. You can tell by the there's basically a texture kind of crack next to the physical cracks, sort of a blacker spot, and that's where you need to place those bombs. And pretty much when he comes into view, when he comes into the view of your camera, shortly after, you need to then detonate that bomb, and that's how you deal pretty big damage to its head. Now his running attacks are really tough to deal with, because sometimes they're straight and sometimes they go around in a circular pattern like this, either to the left or to the right, and yeah, sometimes you're just not very well prepared for that. And Alatreon basically dictates positioning in this fight as well. You don't get to choose where you fight him. Like, for all you know, he could do 5 of these running attacks all in a row, and he could end up on the other side of the map in a completely stupid way. Dragon Blight is generally a very big problem. He only inflicts Dragon Blight while he's in his ground state. You can tell because he's red right now. His moveset is a little different. Now, the problem with Dragon Blight is that you don't deal any elemental damage to him. And if you don't deal any elemental damage to him, well, you don't get to use slime attacks, and so a lot of the damage that he would have otherwise dealt is basically just gone. This is actually part of the reason why I don't want to use ice weapons. Now, some people recommend using ice weapons for this guy. I wouldn't recommend it personally, simply because if you're using ice weapons, then if you get inflicted with Dragon Blight during his ground phase, then all of your additional DPS is basically gone. He does not inflict Dragon Blight during his flying phase, but that's not when he's weak to ice, that's when he's weak to fire and dragon, and so you only really get to use ice half the time, and even in this half of the time, if you get inflicted with Dragon Blight, you don't get anything out of it unless you use a Null Berry. So yeah, this was a big mistake of mine. I basically shot the Ballista Binder when he was already moving out of the way. Like, I should have just rotated it. It was sort of a dumb panic move. I shouldn't have done that. And yeah. this costs me heavily. I think this basically is part of what extends the fight longer than it usually takes place for me. Yeah, it once again is basically doing its big sort of flight over there, and then, you know, icicle dropping. It's a great opportunity to do some heavy maintenance. So for instance, what it can do in this time is you can eat some meat, you can wet your sword, etc., do all sorts of things you're otherwise not able to do very safely. So yeah, once again, timing is pretty straightforward now. The bombs actually have a bit of a lingering hitbox, so a tiny bit too early tends to be better than a tiny bit too late. Because a tiny bit too late means you don't hit him at all, and a tiny bit too early means, well, he's probably still going to get his head into the lingering hitbox. And now it's basically business as usual. He is in his flying sort of state, he's in his ice state, but he's actually on the ground, and this is usually the phase in which you can deal the most damage to him. Because he doesn't, he just tends to be a little bit less aggressive with all of his attacks, and he does sort of lightning attacks all the time, and those are usually fantastic opportunities to attack him. I will admit, I'm not wailing good at him at all, but it is enough to cut the tail. Now, if you can't actually attack its head or its chest or anything valuable like that, what you should be attacking is his tail, because his tail receives 30% cutting damage, whereas his his legs and the body essentially, they only receive 25%. So when it dubbed, it tends to be optimal still to just go for the tail. Even after it's cut, you just get a bit more damage out of that. Yeah, okay, that was risky. I overextended. I got lucky there. Honestly, I should have been hit. I don't know how I didn't get hit. But yeah, what mostly kills you is greed and not healing in time. There are very few opportunities for him to actually like kill you in a way that is completely unavoidable. Like, most of your deaths are going to be greed and stupidity, and they're not gonna be inevitable. Now, right now, what I saw is basically that my slime charge is already at red. Now, I wanted to unleash that on a high damage hitbox, so like his head, and I don't want to unleash that on just his legs, because his head is actually the highest damage hitbox, and you know, I want to break his horns to get some sky piercers. Your odds of getting those are tremendously low. I mean, it's only like 50%, and that's if you break both horns, but it's always worth trying, I guess. Yeah, so I'm attacking his head in a lot of during a lot of attacks when it's actually not really possible, just sort of in hopes of maybe reaching up to his head anyways, but you know, as you can see, to no avail. It's kind of a waste of time. It's not gonna happen. And you could be dealing a lot of other damage in this time, and probably your risky sort of approach, it's not gonna pay off. Or maybe it will. Yeah, okay, no. It didn't in this case. It didn't in this case. Yeah, maybe now, maybe now. Yeah, still no. All of his animations are sped up a little bit when he's angry, actually, so you need to adjust how many hits you really deal to him in that situation. You just get to attack less because his animations are sped up. Now, using the ballista binder over this distance is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit risky, because if you mess up, you will get hit hard. Like, this was last second. Chances are if I did that 1 frame or 2 frames later, I wouldn't have hit him. And I don't know by what miracle I basically went through its head That's very disappointing, obviously. I missed a great damage opportunity, but hey, I still got to explode the slime on his head finally, and I still got to increase my charge level up to white. Now, even though the damage bonus of just white charge is very small, I mean, unless you are at red charge, then you don't really get much out of it anyways. So it's not worth worrying about that in particular too much throughout this fight. You're not gonna be at red charge permanently and stay safe. You're gonna choose between surviving and getting your charge level up in many cases. Now, when it comes to the Shakalakas, basically I have this one which is a Melix one. And the reason why that's pretty cool is because he steals from Alatreon. So even if you die 3 times, chances are he's still gonna have something that he stole from Alatreon, so he's still gonna have some loot. Well, in this case, you know, this exactly demonstrates what I was saying. I increased my charge level, but in a situation when it was definitely not safe. And I paid the price for that. The price being having to drink 2 mega potions to get my health back up. I don't know why I didn't drink 2 there. Well, okay, now I drank 2. Yeah, just to avoid risk, basically. I mean, if you haven't noticed yet, this is not live. I'm not talking while I'm actually playing this. I'm reviewing my old footage. Because otherwise I wouldn't be able to focus on both things simultaneously. I don't know what I did to its AI in this case. It is highly unusual that he just spams that tail attack. Like, Jesus Christ, you know, that's some crazy RNG. That doesn't happen usually. Yeah, when he lands normally, when he lands in general, that's basically a transition to his ground state. Usually. If you use the Ballista Binder, that is not a transition to that state. So he will actually stay in his flying state, but he will be on the ground if you use the Ballista Binder. And if he does that big flying attack, where he drops all of the ice on you, that's also a transition that is not actually triggering his ground state, so he will stay in flying state during that time anyways. Let's see, I broke its leg, but you know, that's not difficult to pull off. I mean, usually throughout any of these fights, unless you're specifically targeting the head and nothing else, you know, hammer tactics, for instance, they are based on that idea, like especially, yeah, speedruns tend to focus on his head exclusively, and those will probably not get the legs broken. Like, if you're just trying to KO him, that's not gonna happen most likely, but, yeah, I mean, it can certainly happen, and probably will happen with runs where this doesn't happen. Now, I got hit hard here. I wanted to basically roll out of him. The range of this attack, where he sort of just spins up into the air, is surprisingly low. However, well, if you're directly below him, that doesn't mean much. It'll definitely hit you, even if the range is low. Obviously, you'll just be in the epicenter of the storm at that point. So yeah, once again, great attack opportunity basically when he's doing that attack. And yeah, essentially when he does this sort of transition into his flying state, you really need to be careful, because unlike his sort of dragon spinning attack, this one has a huge range. Like, he'll just run all over the place, and yeah, he can really hurt you with that. However, he always jumps back before he does that, so unless you're running towards him specifically to do that, you will not get hit. Let's see, this was just a great, easy opportunity for getting the Ballista Binder. Yeah, I sort of attacked at a weird angle though, so I didn't get the most damage out of it. And yeah, you know, this is exactly what I mean, you know, are you going to risk getting a charge level up, but getting hit? I mean, let's be honest here. You barely ever have the time to actually increase your charge level and get away with it safely. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Like, that is very rare. There are low risk situations where it's possible to increase it and most likely get away with it. But to get away with it, certainly, that is very, very rare. Yeah, when he's just kind of flying up into the air and then landing immediately, that's a transition into his ground state. Well, I guess the game thinks he must be in the air to be able to land and to transition into ground state, so... Well, I mean, he needs to fly in order to land. Yeah, that's just a funny idea, you know. He needs to land to be in ground phase. But what if he's not in the air? Then he can't land, can he? So yeah, funny paradoxon, and the developers resolved it by basically just making him fly up into the air for like 1 second. It's a funny thing, funny thing. Yeah, once again, when he's basically doing this kind of attack... Oh, yeah, well, I screwed up, you know. I should have rolled to the left and maybe I could have survived this, but this is a bit of a problem of the Barioth set. If he's angry, then he will actually kill you, even at 100% HP. He does not care. So, the Barioth set has negative 25 fire resistance. And so, if you get hit by one of those attacks, like, if he's angry, there's probably certain death, unless you're, like, literally 100% HP. If he's not angry, that's still gonna take the majority of your health away. So yeah, but the thing is, the resistances which are most important during this fight are lightning. I would say you know, lightning is topmost priority. Because as I said, during the lightning storm, even if you've done him 1,000 times, eventually you're still going to get hit. That stuff is just unavoidable if you have bad RNG. Every now and then you're gonna oversee some lightning bolt. It's gonna happen, you know, it's gonna happen. And then, you know, these dragon attacks, they're really nasty. If you don't get your timing straight, if you do the wrong amount of hits, then he's going to punch you with that. So you wanna have some dragon resistance, and his running attacks are equally sort of RNG based, you know. Sometimes you're just in the wrong spots and he runs in a circular pattern and that's it. And you get hit by that stuff. Right, so lightning and dragon resistance, that's probably the most important stuff. I mean, occasionally when he's in the flying phase, he will hit you with some ice stuff, but that's really, really rare as well. And if you position yourself correctly, then you shouldn't really ever get hit by the fire stuff either. Right, so those are not his most dangerous elements. What you really need to be worried about is lightning. Now, what I've basically noticed here is that it was flying, but it was not actually flying angrily. Right? It doesn't have an aura around its head, and it didn't transition from like angry ground state into angry flying state. And so you can really easily tell by that you can flash bomb him. Like, you can't flash bomb him normally. Most of the times when he's in the air, he is gonna be angry, but when he's not, then you can flash bomb him and get a couple of hits in on his head for basically free. This is kind of risky, you know, to unleash your full combo while he's charging up the big lightning strike. You know, chances are you're still gonna be able to roll out of a lightning, you know, last second. Chances are you're gonna screw it up. So that's also kind of risky. It gives you less time to think, and you really need time to process all of the points where the lightning is gonna strike. Now, as I said, actually, some of these lightnings are completely random, but some of them are actually directed at you. They will spawn on top of you, and so it's not a safe situation to do some iteming at all. As long as the thunderstorm, lightning storm, whatever you call it, you know, as long as that's going on, you are not safe. It's kind of a game of memory as well, you know, like you remember where all of the sort of blue spots were, and that's where the lightning is gonna strike. And it's not completely random, it's obviously telegraphed, but you know, nobody can always remember all of that stuff. Eventually it's gonna hit you. Now, the reason why I actually made this video is because all I could find when it comes to Alatreon online was people doing him in G-rank equipment, you know, like you could tell by the video they've done him like 1,000 times. They have, you know, the best optimized gear in the whole game, and it's piss easy for them. You know, they do this in like 10 minutes. But that's not particularly helpful if you're just trying to figure out how to do him. If you're honest, then you're gonna be doing him with high rank equipment, and you're going to be making mistakes, and you're not gonna have, you know, the best equipment and the best jewels and you know, decorations that are available in the game, and you're not gonna have the best weapon. And you're not gonna have done him 1,000 times before, and you're gonna need to heal yourself because you will get hit. And you're gonna do some mistakes, you're going to miss a ballista binder once, and you're gonna screw up, you know? And so I find a video where this basically happens, where it's done with just high rank equipment and, you know, with mistakes and with some sort of explanation. I find that more helpful than just people speedrunning him in like 5 minutes with the most optimized gear that you can potentially get. Now, whatever weapon type you're using, you kind of have to figure out for yourself how many hits you can deal to him when he is caught with the ballista binder. Now, with the longsword, if he drops right in front of you, right? So if you don't have to walk at all, then you can do an XXA attack. So basically you get 3 regular hits in and then do the full spirit combo by just spamming R completely safely, guaranteed you won't basically get hit as a result. So that's how much you can get in. However, if you have to walk a little bit, then you don't have time for that additional A attack, so then it tends to be just XX and then the full spirit combo. You should really focus more on the sort of lightning strikes than to get to his head as fast as possible. I mean, the lightning strikes are really the more immediate danger. And if you get hit by one of those, I mean, it's gonna take 50% of your HP away, especially if he's angry. And you lose more time through that than if you just paid more attention to the lightning strikes and then worried about how to get to its head afterwards. Just prioritize, man. Just prioritize. So yeah, this is one of the opportunities where I greeted, you know, if you did a different attack, chances are I could have gotten away with it and I would have red charge right now. I didn't get good luck. Yeah. You know, once again, this was a panic roll. I didn't need to roll there. It's just an attack that looks really, really intimidating, you know? I'm slowly running out of healing items over here. I mean, I've already used up all of my regular mega potions. Now I'm using the potions that were combined using honey. So yeah. Now usually during my runs I can do them in like 35 minutes optimally. So I can definitely do sub 40 minutes with this precise equipment. But that's, you know, that's my best times. And yeah, now I know the Ballista Binder is ready. And he's in his flying state, so that's just a great opportunity to wail on him a little bit. Now the thing is that I was hoping that I can get my charge level back up. And so I can deal more damage when I catch him with the Ballista Binder. That's basically my hope. But now that my spirit charge is depleting further and further, I see that this is not happening. And yeah, I took too long to aim. I was hoping it would basically not even hit me with that ice beam, but yeah, sometimes what we hope and what actually happens are quite far apart. And so yeah, this is another case where this costs me a lot of time. If your shakalakas are around, they can actually free you from the ice. In this case, none were around to save me from it. And yeah, I messed up the positioning there. I got greedy and I got hit as a result. This kind of lightning attack which comes out in front, so this is kind of a small lightning attack. It's not particularly dangerous actually. I don't think I've ever even been hit by that. So it's one of his least risk attacks. And that's exactly what makes his flying state so comfortable. As long as he's on the ground, obviously. There's a lot of stuff that can't really hit you. And yeah, this is a perfect example of just horrible luck. Many things coming together. You know, cooling effect wearing off. Like the freaking second that I got hit by that. Yeah, I mean, you could say that I got lucky because it didn't kill me. And I may have deserved to be killed, you know, because I messed up my positioning. I was not in a good spot at all. But, you know, then again, it's just horrible luck to have it expire in exactly that second. Yeah, so I would generally recommend using chilled meats, because they simultaneously fill up your stamina and give you a cooling effect. And all that they require is actually a well-done steak in addition to some ice crystals, and you can actually purchase ice crystals. You don't even need to farm them, so chilled meats are generally just a really good upgrade. Yeah, okay, well, right now, you know, what I did was a little bit risky. Actually, if he did a different attack, chances are he would have caught me while carving. But yeah. When you get back into the arena and the tail was severed in the right spot, then you actually get to carve it, maybe even completely. Yeah, oftentimes what he will do is basically those 3 attacks towards you, and usually he's not going to end right in front of you, right? So the thing, however, is that he could also. Like his very next move could be the big flying one, where he like goes outside of the map and drops ice on you, and you don't actually get to use the Ballista Binder if he is doing that move, right? So like he just doesn't react to it, he doesn't care. And you know, that's obviously really bad. So even if he is not right in front of you, I would honestly just take it. You know, just use that, just use the Ballista Binder when he's decently close. You know, it's better to lose one little hit on his head than to lose the entire opportunity to use the Ballista Binder. That's my reasoning behind it. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bad luck that he did exactly this attack and he did it in the circular pattern. It's like, this is not the best RNG kind of move. Funny thing, I actually think that if I didn't roll in that situation, that would have been it. Like, I would have been dead for the third time. I think that would have actually killed me. And if he did his big lightning charge where he flies towards you very quickly, I think that might have also been it. But I believe he can't do that as his first attack, at least not when he's transitioning into his flying state by hopping backwards. I think he can't do that as his first move. The same scenario again, you know, like if he did a, if he ran in a circular pattern, that probably would have fit me. It's just really difficult to position yourself in such a way that that stuff can never ever hit you. If you're attacking its legs and, you know, going for the strategy that I'm going for. Which is not a particularly safe strategy. Or maybe if I executed it perfectly, it would be. I don't know. But there is still RNG in this game, and as I said, you don't get to dictate positioning with Alatreon. He dictates the positioning. For all you know, he could do, you know, 5 running attacks and he's in a completely different position where, from where you actually want him to be. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous right now, you know, because I'm on my last bit of HP. I'm panicking a little bit. I'm on my last Mega Potion and on my last life. So I'm playing a little bit more defensively than is necessary right now. And yeah, basically as soon as he's transitioning into that, and you know that the Ballista Binder is ready, just use it. If he's across the whole map, then it tends to be a little risky to use it right away, you know. Because you have to kind of catch him mid-air. That tends to be quite difficult. Yeah, I got unlucky there with the slime, actually really unlucky. Chances are, like, both of his horns would already be broken at this point. If that exploded on his head instead of on his leg. And yeah, you know, just bring a bunch of herbs and a bunch of mushrooms. Now normally I don't actually have to use those. That's just kind of a last resort healing solution. Especially since you only get to carry 10 honey, so these are not upgradable into mega potions. And yeah, as I said, you know, every now and then that stuff is going to hit you, whatever you try. There's always going to be some lightning that you didn't see coming, etc. And yeah, and as I've already said once again, don't use healing items while he is still doing the lightning strikes. Because those can actually land directly on you, no matter how far you are. So yeah, I waited a little bit, used the max potion, now I'm kinda safe again. And yeah, so, you know, exactly what I said. If that slime had exploded on his head earlier on, both of his horns would already be broken. And the tendency is usually that you can only break either the horns or the wings, but the wings are sort of lower priority. Because if you break the wings, you're almost guaranteed to get webbing. At least the chance is pretty high, but getting a Sky Piercer, well, the chance for that to occur is quite low. Even if you break both horns, and that's the condition for it, you only have a 15% chance to get a Sky Piercer. So you're gonna have to farm them a lot. You know, like 8 times, you know, maybe you're gonna get 1 Sky Piercer. And that's, you know, if the statistics work out and you're actually lucky. Well, okay, chances are first time you break both horns you're gonna get a Sky Piercer. It's also possible, but the odds of that are just, you know, they're low. Yeah, so usually when I kill him it's some 40 minutes. This is taking quite long this time around. But yeah, this is not one of my best runs. And I'm a little bit more careful than I usually am. Yeah, I kind of wasted that opportunity. You know, I could have maybe done something, but I just didn't have my whetstone selected, so it's a good idea to select the items that you want to use next before you actually use them, so that you can make use of these really good opportunities. And getting blue sharpness is definitely also worth it. You know, like you have a damage multiplier of 1.2 on blue sharpness and only 1.05 on green sharpness. So basically, I'm tossing 15% damage relative to the base damage of the weapon. I'm just tossing that into the garbage by not having blue sharpness. And so it's just best to keep up sharpness blue all the time, if you can, obviously. You don't always have the opportunity, and sometimes, you know, one skill that's really useful against him is speed sharpening. Well, okay, it's sharpening, and then the ability to get from that is speed sharpening. Yeah, okay, you know, I goofed. This is exactly what I mean. I didn't realize, or well, I realized too late that what he's doing right now is his big flying attack. And as you can see, the Ballista Binder doesn't work on him. So this is actually Ballista Binder mistake number 3, and that's exactly why this run is taking so long. I've messed up 3 times now, I think. Yeah, once I got frozen, once I missed, and once I used it when he was flying into the air, and I couldn't even use it. I'm pretty sure this would actually be sub 40 minutes if I didn't mess up in this way. Multiple times. You know, multiple times. So yeah, now, you know, other leg is broken. It's not particularly difficult, you know, chances are if you're wailing at his legs occasionally, that'll just happen over the course of the fight, whether you're trying or not. Yeah, I was a little bit too close to that lava spot. I guess I got lucky that I didn't walk right into it, but barely past it. Because that would have cost me 50% of my HP. Remember, I have negative 25 fire resistance. And while fire and ice are his least dangerous elements, if you mess up, they still exist. Yeah, this sort of this sort of biting attack, or it's putting down its legs as well. That one is really tough to deal with. Like he doesn't do it after rotating towards you. It's a follow-up. It's an optional random follow-up to other attacks, right? So if after attacks you're still positioned in that spot, then he can actually hurt you, and he can hurt you badly. Yeah, well, one time I got myself out of a really bad situation using a max potion. But there are other options, obviously, like what you can also use is a Farcaster and then sleep in the bed, but that's a big time loss. as compared to just using a max potion. Oh no, actually it's an ancient potion, yeah. Those are actually surprisingly easy to get. Like, you only need Calby horns and then some other stuff, but yeah, it's really easy to get actually. Although you can only carry one of these. So yeah, he transitioned into ground phase. Yeah, chances are if he hit me with that, I would be dead now. That's a funny thing, isn't it? And yeah, that's it. That's it. So yeah, well, I could say sub 45 minutes, but this is like a 44:57 or something like that run. If I remember correctly, I probably don't. So, yeah, this could obviously be better. You got a whole bunch of carves from him, and I don't even think you can actually get all of his carves plus both tail carves. If you didn't carve his tail at least once and it's closed, then you'll miss out on the second carve. That's for sure. So throughout the fight, you know, just find some opportunity to carve the tail, otherwise you're gonna miss that carve. At least that's what I believe. I don't think I could have carved this tail. No, actually, yeah. Yeah, hold up. Yeah, there would have been enough time to carve the tail a second time. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, okay, so never mind that. Never mind that, I guess. So yeah, I didn't get lucky, you know, just a broken Sky Piercer. But Let's Ride Jewel, that's a pretty rare jewel. There are only very few ways to get it in high rank. So it's always nice to have those. Yeah, the emulator is kind of flickering when you save progress. I don't know why. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, just upgraded Dios Katana and some Barioth gear. I have some evasion, you know, just to get my evasion up to max. I'm not actually using an ice weapon right now. I just have frost there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yeah.